We arrived on a beautiful, beautiful day. There was no wind. The sea was just this cobalt blue. The color of the water here seems to be a brighter blue than most of the other beaches on Mahe. And I guess it's because of this white sand reflecting the sunlight back up through the shallow water. The turtle tracks coming out of the light shore break gave away the fact that a female turtle had hauled herself out of the sea here, judging by the tide line, probably half an hour before we arrived. This female hawksbill was still in the process of digging the egg shaft when we came across her. She's obviously quite a seasoned nest maker, being quite big in size and obviously fairly old. And here you see how delicately this female scoops out literally flipperfuls of sand, ever so gently, placing them alongside the hole and alternating between right and left. Heaving on her front flippers, trying to get deeper to dig that egg shaft into the cooler sand. As soon as it's deep enough, she wasted no time and began dropping eggs, a couple at a time, into this very narrow little hole that she'd managed to dig. Each time a pocket of eggs came through, she'd arch her head back, open her beak a little, and then settle again. Turtles are incredibly vulnerable when they're nesting. They're obviously out of their domain. They're susceptible to the heat, since these ones nest during the day, and obviously bigger predators that would feed on a whole turtle. As soon as she was done, the back flippers got to work again, filling in the narrow shaft on top of the eggs, and here she's kneading the sand down, compacting it. Incredibly dexterous rear flippers that these turtles have. Quite subtly now, going into a different stage of the nesting process, and this involves masking the actual nest site. She flaps sand away from her head, thus digging herself away from the actual nest site. She'd practically disappeared into the undergrowth. Then all of a sudden, she decided to turn, figured out that she'd done her job well, and she began to head straight back to the water. The urgency to get back to the sea overrode any sort of fatigue that she may be feeling. She left the shade of the big tree that she'd chosen and went into the sun, which was now blazing down at about 36 degrees, heading back to the cobalt blue sea. Stopping for a brief rest every now and again, she continued to haul herself down to the water. And I'm sure she could smell the salt water finally making contact. It was such a relief watching the water obviously cool her down, wet her, signifying that she was almost back in her element. She'd made it, having successfully laid a good nest.